just for people, I do have some horned cattle that got out, and I couldn't find them, so I got in the breakaway calves. Better than nothing. One other thing I'll say is one thing about a neck. If you're good at catching a neck doesn't come off ever. So just a little food for thought right there. What I decided to give a little more instruction on. We roped a bunch or something, and so I can watch that and pick out stuff that you liked or didn't like or whatever. But something that is really good for headers, especially, is time right here in the box at the starting point. This horse that I'm on, I felt like kind of was having not a real good day in there, and so these are some drills and some things that I do consistently to try to make it. I want them to start good. If they start good, it makes all this my job way easier. So I'm going to just show you kind of some stuff that I do like to do. First off, I try to have good shoot help. They're worth everything. Now, like this mare, she wants to be a little funny, especially when I get in the corner right here. She won't stand, so a lot of times I'll get, just like I'm going to rope, reset. Now, I'll say rattle it. This way, if a guy does it this way, if you are roping cattle and you don't have a lot of cattle or you really want a lot of runs, you can do this 3, 4, 5, 8 times and still run the cow when it's time to run the cow. I'm scoring without scoring the cow at this moment. Rattle it. Now, she did really good right there, so this is me rewarding her. That's all I wanted. I'm not pulling on her, I'm not doing anything. Give her a good little, that's what I want, and then I'll do it again. Rattle it. Okay. Something that is very critical for an animal, especially a horse. They do not learn from pressure. They learn from the release of the pressure. So whenever she does what I want, there's always some release, whether it's the bridle reins, and it's not a quick, lots of release. It's very small. When I get what I want, I can back up, whatever. Basically, all I'm wanting her to do is when there's a little pressure on these reins, rattle it. This hand right here, my left hand, does not move. And as long as she's standing, that's good. That means you can relax and go forward. And you can see this little mare's starting to figure it out. But that's something that I would spend a lot of time on. Yeah, you want to run cattle, and am the first one to say I like to run a lot of cattle. So if a guy can work on some of these drills, you still get to run the cow. You don't have to just let the cow go. You can get your horse standing good, run the cow. It takes a little bit of time. In the long run, though, it's going to pay dividends.
Something we were thinking about as healers we can work on practicing to try to, sure enough, get something out of every run is that in itself is, let's try to make the best of every run possible. Like each run, if something your partner misses, you're able to, if your horse gets a little bit strong, you're able to get something out of that run. And each time you're doing something, really try to practice with a purpose. Because we come out here, we're not wanting to just run steers, run 20 or 30 steers, get our horse hot, get ourselves tired, and that's all we're going to head to the house. Let's try to get something out of each run and practice with a purpose. When you get out there, have a goal in mind. You know, try to, all right, I'm going to work on my consistency today. I'm going to try to catch 10 in a row or 5 in a row, or okay, we're going to pretend like we're at the jackpot and get something out of this today. Like, just instead of going out there and goofing off and not being prepared when you get to the jackpot, let's go out there and have a purpose in mind and try to get the best out of our practice, so when we get to the jackpot of the rodeo, we're able to capitalize on the opportunity and win some money.
All right, so I guess my food for thought for this camp would have been, well, not for the camp, but being there is no camp, my food for thought, or my challenge, or I guess something that I would encourage a lot of you to do would be to read Hebrews chapter 11. And as you read it, it won't be one that you read right real fast. At least not for me. The way I would do it would be to, as you start to read it, and it'll give you an example of a certain character in history that by faith was asked by God to do something, and then find that character and his story in the Bible, and then read that story. And the reason I really am thinking and am encouraged by it is because you will find with each individual, they were asked to believe or do something that was crazy. But by faith, they were willing to do it, and the outcomes were always, for lack of better, spectacular to me. And just for example, one was when Noah was asked to build the ark. Never rained before, didn't even know what rain was, didn't have any idea what a flood was. So you put all that into perspective, and then you were told to build this ark. And it's not something that you did in secret. He had to, it was something that a lot of people knew about, and I'm sure some serious persecution and maybe even some questioning on his behalf at times. But at the end of the day, he continued, finished the ark. And then if you read the story, if you don't know the story, after you read it, you'll realize then came the flood. And it was only him, his wife, his 3 sons, their wives, and the animals that were called by God to get on the ark were saved from this awesome flood. And I think back on that and think, how awesome was it to have that kind of faith? And when you receive Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're accepting something by faith, that He is going to do what He says He's going to do. And when you receive Christ as your Savior, basically you're saying you know He is going to save you from hell. You are not going to die. You get to live eternally with Him in heaven when you are done and finished here on this earth. And statistics show 100% of the time you're going to die at some point from something. And so that is kind of my, I don't know, here recently Hebrews chapter 11 has been about a weekly go through, and it takes me about a week to go through it because, like I say, I'd like to read about the first character and then go read his story or her story. And it's inspirational to realize that I serve such an awesome God, and really all He asks is that I have faith. That I have faith that what He says is truth. And at the end of the day, I'm excited to have that faith because I'm not too worried about here. Because as it says, and I don't know where it says it, but I am truly striving to store up treasures in heaven and not treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, but treasures in heaven that last forever and ever. And that is my goal and what I'm striving to do. And the roping is just a tool that God has given me that I enjoy and enjoy sharing stuff with you about. But at the end of the day, salvation is the one true thing that's really, truly going to matter. And then practicing and putting on the armor of God daily so that we can withstand the fiery darts that are thrown at us from the devil and from his powers that he has. And don't discredit him. He has some serious power to try to detour us or stumble us, and we will stumble, we will fall. But we do have a Savior who loves us so much that he's going to forgive us each and every time, pick us up, and say, let's go again. Let's go again. And when it's all said and done, I just am praying that when I get to heaven, he's going to look me in the eye and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. That's what I got.